Hello, Professor. My student ID is 11626703. Today, I will present a literature review that explores how different methodological paradigms, positivism and interpretivism, offer complementary insights into Chinese high school students' psychological experience under exam-oriented education. First, this is the outline of this literature review, and the main focus is the methodology analysis aspects. In China, the exam-oriented education system has long shaped the students' academic path, school culture, and psychological well-being. As the only examination opportunity for Chinese high school students to enter university, the Gaokao is the most decisive standardized selection magazine in China. From the banner of Gaokao in the second picture, we can see the slogan, "Life can be reincarnated, but Gaokao only happens once." Such slogan vividly conveys the huge psychological pressure faced by students, and also reveals the profound impact of exam-oriented culture on students' emotion and mental states. Exam-oriented education is a system that focuses heavily on test score, ranking, and high-stakes exam. It doesn't just affect how students study, it also deeply shapes their motivation and mental health. So in this literature review, I focused on the topic of multidimensional pressure on high school students under the exam-oriented education culture in China. The multidimensional pressure here refers to the psychological pressure, social pressure, and academic decision-making pressure brought by the system. There are three exciting studies from different perspectives of stress that I will introduce later. The purpose of this literature review is to compare how different methodologies shaped our understanding of multidimensional pressure on high school students within China's exam-oriented education system. Before we start the analysis of the literature, let me talk about the data search procedure. For me, there were 5 steps. Step 1, define keywords like exam-oriented education, Gaokao, high-stakes exam, and so on. The step 2 is to select the databases. I used the University Library and Google Scholar. The step 3 is to combine keywords for primary searching. For example, I used the high school students and exam-oriented education and mental health and China as a search sentence. Step 4 is to set a selection criteria. The most important for me are topical relevance and methodological quality. And step 5 is to finalize the selection and read the articles in depth. There are 3 articles I chose for the literature review. Now let me give a detailed introduction on these 3 articles. The author of Article 1 is Yu Fu. Its research topic is to reveal the impact of Gaokao high-stakes testing on student mental health in China by analyzing the stress level and coping mechanism among senior high school students. The topic is suitable because Gaokao is a core product of China's exam-oriented education culture. Its core belief is that one test determines a lifetime. Therefore, the pressure of Gaokao directly reflects the pressure of exam-oriented education on students. The purpose of this article is to emphasize the importance of stress management for students' well-being by analyzing the relationship between students' stress level and their academic performance. The context of study includes these keywords: Shanxi Normal University, China, journal article, senior high school students, exam-oriented context. The paradigm of this article is positivism. The evidence is that researchers mainly use the quantitative method, emphasize the causal relationship through actual measurement, survey, and data qualification, and maintains neutrality in study. The participants are students from urban, suburban, and rural areas who are preparing for the college entrance examination. For data collection, the researcher used PSS, ASI, and self-report questionnaires combined with longitudinal design. For data analysis, they used the descriptive statistics to summarize stress level and regression analysis to examine the relationship between stress and academic performance. In terms of ethics, the study ensured the data transparency, anonymity, and confidentiality. The findings show that high-stakes exam affects students' mental health, including anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. Compared with urban and suburban students, rural students experience more pressure. And the impact of this research is that it calls for schools and relevant parliaments to pay more attention to adolescents' mental health. The quality criteria include 2 aspects: reliability and objectivity. Reliability is demonstrated through the use of standardized scales, PSS and ASI, and the real and relevant sample groups, and the reproducible questionnaire method. Objectivity is reflecting the use of quantitative data analysis, the absence of the research intervention, and the fact that findings are based on data. Article 2's research topic is to review Chinese school adolescent stress experience and provide coping strategies. This topic is suitable because the central theme is exam-oriented education. It extends to several questions: the source of stress, its impact, and coping strategies, all closely linked to the review topic. The research purpose is to understand the pressure and needs of adolescents and provide suggestions for psychological intervention in Chinese high schools. The context of study includes China, journal article, high school students, qualitative study on academic stress. The paradigm is interpretivism because the researcher used the qualitative methods such as interviews and focus groups. Focusing on students' subjective feelings, the participants are 10th and 11th grade students and their teachers. Select through the purposive sampling. For data collection, researchers use 3 semi-structured interviews with open-ended questions, and each lasting 50 to 60 minutes. The interview table and the questions are clearly shown in the article. For data analysis, the researcher used the semantic analysis with coding, following a 7-step process. Table 2 shows the subthemes identified. In terms of ethics, the study respects the research site system, did not interview 12th grade students, protect the respondents' privacy, and ensure anonymity. Findings reveal the students suffer from excessive stress due to the academic expectation, peer relationships, and family issues. Stress affects their mood, sleep, learning, and mental health. Most students cope through avoidance. The study highlights the impact of stress on students' learning and happiness and promotes stress intervention policies. The quality criteria are authenticity, dependability. Authenticity is reflecting data from multiple perspectives, interviews conducted in real school setting, and the sensitivity to cultural context. Dependability is reflective semantic analysis, double coding by 2 researchers, and a transparent research process. Article 3's research topic is the changes in learning motivation and academic decision-making of Chinese high school students under the new Gaokao reform. This topic is suitable because the new Gaokao is essentially a continuation and adjustment of exam-oriented education. Although some mechanism changes, the core belief of one test for life remains, meaning the reform still carries exam pressure. The research purpose is to examine how the new Gaokao affects students' learning motivation and behavior, and to offer insights for policy improvement. The context of study includes Shanghai, China, journal article, high school students, qualitative research under the new Gaokao. The paradigm is interpretivism, as the study uses qualitative method and focuses on the students' subjective experience. Participants are 4 11th grade classes at the elite public high school in Shanghai, mostly from middle to high socioeconomic backgrounds. For data collection, the study used observation and interviews. Simple interview questions are listed in Table 1. The study also used the semantic analysis and coding, and the Table 2 presents the subthemes. In terms of ethics, the study received approval from University Ethics Committee. Informed consent was obtained from principal, teacher, students, and parents. Data was collected only for research and kept confidential. The finding revealed the performance-based thinking remains dominant, and the new Gaokao has not relieved the pressure but increased it through more complex academic decision-making. The impact includes offer diverse perspective on reform, contributing to empirical research, revealing motivation diversity, and informing policy. The quality criteria are transparency and authenticity. Transparency is reflecting the clear design, participant selection, and the data procedure. Authenticity is shown through students' real voice, direct quoted, and observation of real behavior. Now let's move to the key part of this literature review, the methodology contrast part. First, let's talk about the paradigm of 3 articles. We have learned about that Article 1 is positivism, and Article 2 and 3 are interpretivism. Positivist research belief is that reality is objectively and neutrally, and the data can be measured and quantified. In Article 1, researchers adopt this stance by using standardized questionnaires to quantify students' stress level and statistically analyze their correlation and causation between different variables. And the research belief of interpretive that there is a multiple reality of truth depending on each of us experience and our context, which is reflected in Article 2 and 3 that using qualitative method to explore how students subjectively experience and make sense of exam-related pressure within their specific education and social context. Because that different paradigm cannot contrast, I divide the next methodology contrasting into 3 parts. First is the advantages and the limitation of Article 1. For data collection, researchers use PSAs and ASI, which means that the data can be quantitatively analyzed and reduce subjective basis. However, they ignore the subjective experience of participants. The deep psychological reaction cannot be studied. For the sample size, although the sample size is big, but which includes students from urban, suburban, and rural areas. The depth of sample meaning was insufficient as the background difference are averaged out. Then moving to the representativeness of sample. Although all participants are who is preparing Gaokao, researchers does not consider pressure situation of non-Gaokao examinations. For this group students, they may have different stress levels, thus the representativeness is limited. Then for the time dimension, researchers use longitudinal research method, which means that the change of students' pressure fluctuate over time can be observed. However, the questionnaires and the time point of researchers are fixed and processed for long time, which means that it's difficult to respond to the sudden situations. For example, the sudden reform of teaching textbook will have an impact on students, which leads to the lack of authenticity of research. For the data analysis, although the regression analysis can reveal the correlation and the causality between variables, and the results are standardized, it cannot capture and analyze the subjective experience of individuals and the deep social culture. Finally, for criteria of quality, although data was highly objective to reduce the basis of artificial interpretation, may ignore the subjective feelings of participants, which means that it cannot completely appear the authenticity. Second part is methodology contrast of 2 interpreting article. For time dimension, Article 2 has 3 semi-structured interview, but Article 3 lasts longer, about 4 to 5 months. Thus, Article 2's pressure data are most static, and it is difficult to reflect the long-time dynamic trend. Then for data collection, Article 2 only have an interview, but Article 3 apply both method of observation and interview, which means that the finding were cross-validate. Then for the sample, Article 2 through sampling, the diverse and the representative of data sources were ensured, which improved the credibility of data. By contrast, Article 3 don't have detailed discrimination of sample selection criteria, and there may be participant selection basis. For the same frame, Article 2 does not have any. Most data explained depend on the researcher's experience. However, Article 3 have motivational theory, freedom of choosing theory, which improve the explanatory of research. Finally, for the researcher positionality, researchers and participants from Article 2 have more interaction, which is a participatory research ethics, and more emphasis is placed on the intersubjectivity in the research process. And the identity of researchers in Article 3 as an observer is present throughout the research, which ensures the naturality of study, but it may lack the grasp of true motivation of students. The third part is the complementarity of 3 articles. First, on the content, Article 1 reviews the phenomena by quantifying the stress. Article 2 and 3 review subjective experience through the course observation to explain how does the system create stress. And finally, Article 3 deeply explains the exposure. Then on methodology, for the research method, Article 1 used the quantitative method to make a data clearly. Article 2 and 3 use qualitative method to strengthen the understanding of meaning behind the data. Then for time dimension, Article 1 used the longitudinal data collection method to provide the tendency and construct the whole pressure development process combined with Article 2 and 3. Finally, for data sources type, 3 articles used the different data collection method and obtain data from multiple sources. For example, teachers in Article 2 participate in the research as the role of school stakeholder, bringing data diversification to the research. Finally, let's talk about how can methodology limited and or open opportunities for learning education issues. Quantitative methods allow us to see the size, frequency, and trends of educational phenomena, like knowing the most common types of stress, but it may ignore individual feelings, institutions, and circumstances. Simply reduce complex educational issues to relationship between variables. The qualitative approach allows us to see the subjectivity and process of educational issues, such as how students feel about examination and how they are affected by the system. It is a practice embedded in cultural and institutional structure. So overall, methodology determines the dimensions of problems that you can see and whether you can come up with really useful explanations and interventions. That's methodology choice is not a technical matter, but rather a choice of epistemological position. Thanks for listening.